Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's dawn now. Daylight is dawning. It was nighttime. Makes sense, right? Now it's daytime or close to it. Okay. I have an old brand and a not so old brand of Canadian blended whiskey. I have Canadian Limited, introduced in 1972. This is the newer label. If you go in the store, you might see some older labels from 3 or 4 years ago. They've been modified because now the LTD Limited is in black. It used to be gold. I think they wanted something that was a little easier to see. Anyway, they're both 80 proof. They're both distilled and blended in Canada, and they're both bottled in the United States, and they're both Sazerac brands. I'm going to show you the other one in a moment. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Oh boy. Fleischmann Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. That's where it's bottled, Owensboro, Kentucky. Well, Fleischmann's was bought out years ago by, let me think about this, by Barton, I believe. And then Barton Distilling was bought out by Sazerac in 2009, okay? So that's that part of the company, Owensboro, Kentucky. Now here we have Canadian Crest, Canadian blend, Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Uh-oh. But this one is imported from Canada, but it's bottled in Louisville, Kentucky by the Founders Company. So we've got, you say the Founders Company, who's that? Sazerac. It's one of their dozens and dozens of assumed names, okay? I got confused. I thought I was doing a taste challenge against Canadian Club, but that's why I make a schedule. When I have time, I will write the schedule out on the events. You say, well, you put it at 5:30 and this is almost 6. Yeah, but you can only do 30-minute increments on the schedule thing. 5:30 is too dark. So it's really sometime between 5:30 and 6. Okay. That's and then I've got the next one today because I have to do 2 today because of the scheduling situation. Scheduled for 3. But it may turn out where I can do it at 2, so I'll just edit it and do it at 2. So it'll pop up. I mean, you know, if you want to watch it live, good. If you want to watch it recorded, good. If you don't want to watch it at all, that's fine too. I do like to play these taste challenges that people make. They don't usually do blind taste challenges like Eric, a Lions fan. He is a friend of mine on Facebook, and he is part of Beer Talk. He doesn't do hangouts with us really, maybe once a year. I wish he would do more, but that's his idea if he doesn't want to. But he did 2 IPAs last night. I think he recorded them. I watched the playback. I didn't watch it live. He was doing, I think, Founders Centennial versus Bell's Two Hearted Ale. And he said he couldn't tell them apart. But he wasn't doing it blind. He was just tasting one, tasting the other. Okay, anyway, so I wrote here Club for Canadian Club. But let's say this is limited. The Club will be limited, and the CC will be the Canadian Crest. Canadian Crest came out in 1987. It's one of those private label brands. It's come under the control of Albertsons because of all these store acquisitions. Okay. Get my ink pen here. Oh, I'm glad I write these schedules out ahead of time. Okay, so LTD. Ford LTD. LTD. LTD Brome. You get the Canadian Limited 12-year aged. It's the LTD Brome. Well, they don't make Canadian Limited except for this one. They don't make a 12-year age. Now with the Royal Canadian, there's an extra age. It's called Royal Canadian. Oh, it's on the Sazerac website. I've never seen it. It's a lot more expensive than Royal Canadian. It's called Royal Canadian Limited Edition. So I don't know. Doesn't matter because I can't get it to my knowledge, I can't get it. Okay. Okay, so let's go with the older one first, the limited, Canadian limited. My friend David was talking about, I told him, I said, yeah, they got Canadian limited at international market for $10.99, a 1.75 liter bottle, 1,750 milliliters. Wow. He said, wow, that's really a great price. And he went over there because he happened to be in the area, and he said, oh yeah, they have a lot of it on the shelf. I said, yeah, they just keep restocking it. They must have a whole warehouse full of older bottles of it. He said, but I don't want to buy it. I don't know if I like it. I might not like it. I said, well, I have a bottle. You can try it. Better than buying it and then hating it. He said, good idea. So he took an ice cube and he poured some in there, or I poured it. He said, stop. He tried it. Oh, he said, it's terrible. It tastes like black licorice. He said, it tastes like they put, I said, I wish I would have recorded this, you know. He said, it tastes like they put Jägermeister in a Canadian bottle. I said, what? He said, dump it out, dump it out. I said, no, this is the second time you've wanted to try some whiskey I have, and then you tell me dump it out. Well, I'm not really buying them to dump them, you know, but he didn't, needless to say, he's not going to go buy it. But if you're used to drinking bourbon, which is what he does generally, and to drink these kind of items, it will really throw you off because it's so different. That's what he does, bourbon. Okay. Well, the appearance is identical. But one is bottled in Owensboro, one is bottled in Louisville. Will that make much of a difference? I don't know. It might be the same thing in two different containers. I think that really is done. I cannot prove that. I would not make a definitive statement like that's what's done. That's why I got into one of the reasons I got into conflict with another beer. He's not a reviewer. He said, I don't review beers, buckaroos. He just talks about beer, whatever. Because he would say these definitive statements. And like he told me, well, you know, in Coors, that brewing company's racist. They have a history of racism. And that caught me off guard. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, where do you get this information? Can you show me? No, it's just common knowledge. I said, well, it seemed like I would have heard that. I never heard such a thing. And he was saying to me, look it up, look it up. I said, no, you don't make the reader do the research. You do the research. You know what I mean? Like if you write a book, you say, you know, here's my research. Here's my scholarship. Not it's a fact, look it up. That's the Archie Bunker approach to scholarship. You know what I mean? So that's why I didn't agree with that. I said, you're saying they're racist, but what's the evidence? It's a known thing. I said, okay, all right. I wasn't going to argue, you know. So I'm not going to make a statement like, oh, I know these are the same whiskey. It's the same whiskey in different bottles. I'm not going to say that because I don't know that. I assume that it could be true now. And it might be true. But I can only guess that that could be the case. I'm not going to make this assumption and declare it as a fact. You understand? And I got in conflicts with him before because he was saying, well, Budweiser's changed and they use cheaper ingredients now. I said, what evidence do you have of that? It just has. It has. Now, my friend David says that too. But he will like qualify the statements usually with, I think it's changed. It seems to have changed. I have a suspicion that it's changed. More than just, this is the reality based on me saying it with no evidence to back it up. So that's just the point I try to make about that thing. Okay. Now, well, okay, so back to this. Will I be able to tell them apart? You know, maybe. I haven't been doing a very good job of telling these Canadian things apart, one from the other. I think that's because they're so simple. I don't think it's because I'm bad at tasting necessarily. I think it's because they're so similar. They're at the same price point, you know, $6, $7, $8 a bottle, all bottom shelf, you know, cheap Canadian, usually age about 3 years, blended whiskeys, maybe 4, you know, like with Seagram's BO, it's probably aged longer than and it's more expensive too. It's not actually on the bottom shelf. It's usually sold on the middle shelves, and it's usually about $16, $17 a bottle. You can get it cheaper if you find one of those rebate coupons that they have hanging on the bottles. Oftentimes, Diageo, it'll say, you know, you can buy any combination of Diageo. Okay, so you could buy Myers rum, and you could buy Tanqueray gin and Seagram's BO, and then you could mix them and match them. As long as you have that receipt, you can mail it in, and they'll send you the money back pretty fast. They say allow 6 to 8 weeks, but I've usually gotten it in about 2 weeks. Okay. So are these the same thing in a different bottle? I don't know. There's a little wood, honestly, on the nose here. Canadian Crest from 1987. Like I said, now it's under the Albertsons store chain control. But you might find it at Jewel, Osco, Vons. I can't even remember all the different stores they've got. It's a lot. Yeah, it's wood and not so much of that flavoring. It's like wood and just like kind of bland Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey tends to be kind of bland, you know. So, all right. This one is a little more of the flavoring type thing. But not an abundance of it. But yeah, you get a little bit of that, like they're using the other distilled spirits, whatever that could be, a combination thereof. Maybe that buttered rum cake. But it's not real strong. You know, if you watch my previous Hangout taste challenge, I did Canadian Leaf versus the Canadian Crest, and I went on and on about it, and I had them mixed up. I was kind of shaken up by that. Shaken up, shooken up, shook, whatever. I had cognitive dissonance over it. Okay, taste time. And remember, if I say so-and-so beer reviewer, or we got in a disagreement about different things, it's always an open forum. We can all, I don't do that business of cutting somebody off, you know what I mean, blocking them or whatever, and then talking about them with no chance for rebuttal. I definitely never go along with that. That's craziness to me. This is always an open forum. Anyone can come on, make their case, and then I can give point and they can give counterpoint. I don't play that game of here's my stage and here's what I'm going to say, and there's no chance for rebuttal, and I'm going to create my own narrative. I don't do that. I know some people do, but that's the weak way to do it. You don't create your own narrative with no chance for rebuttal. Good morning, says Bucky, and Valentin says hi. Hi, guys. They taste like grain whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of corn, obviously some rye, and very obviously barley malt. Predominantly corn, but I think the Canadian whiskeys seem to have more barley malt, which gives them a little smoother taste relative to American blended whiskeys, which have more of that corn distillate taste, that neutral taste, if you could conceive of something like that. Therefore, I tend to prefer the Canadian blended whiskeys over the American blended whiskeys for that very reason. More of the bready barley, like a barley cake or something, whatever, you know. Now, these here this morning, Craig Swenson was talking about this. He said, well, look, you know, don't feel bad about revisiting a beer and then revisiting it, because there's different at different times you have different perspectives of it, and there's different ways of thinking about it. It doesn't always have to be this one and done, and then you're on to something else. I agree with that, and it doesn't have to be limited to just a revisit once and then you're on down the road. Because I said, yeah, you got to, sometimes you have to think on beer more than just drink on it. So I like that idea. I like that idea. And yeah, and so talking about the open forum thing, like when, remember I was ranting and raving on and on about Jack Daniels is a bourbon. So, and then people were saying, no, no, you're wrong, you're wrong. I said, I'm not wrong. And remember, I put that on, I put that on Facebook. I said, I'm going to make a video about Jack Daniels being a bourbon. And then so Rajay, I can't remember who else wanted to come on that. I didn't keep the video posted. It was kind of long, you know, and I didn't know if people really wanted to watch it. I should have kept it though. There's a lot of videos I have that I ought to delete, and there's a lot of them that I've deleted that I shouldn't have, I think. But anyway, he said, then Rajay said, I'm going to join. I'm going to show you. I said, okay. So we had a hour-long argument about it. It wasn't like heated or angry. Even if it would have been, that wouldn't have bothered me. I don't mind that kind of stuff. But I see what I'm saying. Open forum. His contention was, well, he used to be a bartender, so people that went to the bar didn't consider it a bourbon. I said, well, that's not really a legal basis for something being a bourbon or not being a bourbon, that people consider it, the casual consumer. I said, I'm talking about the law, the legal definition of bourbon. Jack Daniels legally is a bourbon as per the legal regulatory definition of it. It's marketed as Tennessee whiskey, yes. If you go on the Jack Daniels tour, they'll tell you the first half of the tour is all about what makes a bourbon and why Jack Daniels is a bourbon. But then their point is that, well, since they charcoal, whatever they call it, charcoal mellowed, they use these euphemisms, you know, they don't want to say filtered. Charcoal mellowed, that makes it Tennessee whiskey. No, that's just a type. It doesn't disqualify it as bourbon. That's just a type. So I knew what I was talking about, but I was welcoming them to come on and come at me, you know, but they couldn't defeat what I was saying because their contentions were based on a faulty premise. You understand? And we know how logic works, right? If your premise is wrong, if your premise is faulty, then your conclusion is going to obviously be faulty. Valentin, he said, I watched your old video of Super Brew 15. The video was hilarious. Oh yeah, that was horrendous. And that stuff is still available. I could still buy it if I wanted to, but I would never want to. But I can still get it. Oh, I saw it and I said, no, I can't. To be fair, I never heard of that beer. It doesn't exist anymore. Oh, yes, it does. Now, those bottles could be old now. I didn't check the dates. And they have these garbled European dates I can't figure out. Oh, yeah, but I can still buy it in Louisiana. I would never do it. I would never do that to myself. But it's there, that nefarious item, Super Brew 15, that malignant thing. Now, these are cheap, you know, I mean, obviously they're cheap. I know that. I knew that. Some people will tell me, you know, that stuff's cheap. Well, I mean, you're telling me what I know already. I know this. But they're not bad, you know. They're not bad. Okay, which is which? Oh, whoa. Honestly, it's very difficult to tell. This one here to the right might be your left, but to my right, on my right hand, this one does taste like it probably has a relatively higher level of plum wine, because people keep saying, and the Canadian people keep telling me they add plum wine. The Canadian government admits that. I was reading their website. They are allowed to use wine. They do use wine. They don't have to disclose it. With that being the case, I think that this is, let me get one more sip. I think that is the limited. Now, I don't quite know where David was coming from on Sunday with this business about black licorice. I don't really pick that up. And he was talking about medicine. It tastes like medicine. I think he was just so, what you say, caught off guard by the exotic flavors of these Canadian blended that was his perception. That's how he's perceiving it. There might be, now there honestly might be some anise, you know, that, which is what the licorice so is derived from. So there could be that. Notice I didn't say he's wrong. He's wrong. I said, I'm not seeing it. Okay. John Anili says, good morning, Ron. Hey, John. John, I guess the beer was produced by a shady brewery in Galati. Definitely a shady operation if there ever was one. Their flagship beer is called Madonna. Madonna. Yeah, you see what I mean? It's like, oh, people will tell me Budweiser's so bad. Bud Light, they were talking about that on my comments. Bud Light is so bad. I said, Bud Light's bad? Hey, look, if you haven't had Super Brew 15 or that other wretched stuff from the Czech Republic, from Bohemia, what do they call it? Boom. And the other one is clap or bang. You don't know what that is. I mean, if you drink that, if you drink Super Brew 15 or even Cowboy Lager from City Brewing, I bought that in Texas, or Crazy Stallion. Oh man, that stuff will make Bud Light look like the greatest beer ever, man. It just will. I mean, it's all a frame of reference, okay? But now, Bud Light might be the worst beer you've ever tried. So to you, that's the bottom. And I can understand that. But there's a much deeper pit for you to fall into. And I don't want you to fall into that pit. You don't need to do Camo. You don't need to do Dog Bite. You don't need to do all that. You don't need to do Earthquake. Just try Earthquake. It's so poorly done. Like, the brewing is so bad. To me, Bud Light is well brewed. It's not my choice. I drank it at Bingo because it's free. The only reason I drank it because Coors Light and Miller Lite were expired. They were past the best by date. I said, I don't know why this beer is expired at the prolific rate these guys drink, but whatever. I'd rather drink a fresh beer, you know. The Canadian Limited is like almond extract with whiskey added. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'll go along with that. It's a strange thing. After your video, I feel I want to try it. You talking about Super Brew 15? No, you don't want to try that. It's just not worth it. It's so bad. It's like that Gibson's Marsala, Gibson Vineyards Marsala. I dumped that out on camera. You could hear me dumping it out. I said, no, this tastes like meat marinade, like beef marinade. It was so rancid. There was no way I was going to drink it. And I drank some of that rancid German beer I had from the Bayrock. Was it On Deck Bayrock? It made me vomit. I mean, it made me ill after just 4 ounces. And I drank a little sip of that Gibson's Vineyard Marsala. I knew that stuff was rancid. I poured it out. There's no way I was drinking that. I wouldn't even. And then the guy at DoorDash tells me, well, a lot of people buy that to cook with. Well, how is that related to the fact that the wine was obviously rancid? I don't know. I didn't bring a receipt. I should have got my $4.99 back. But I mean, you know, yeah, $4.99, right? I don't expect a lot for that price, but I don't expect it to be rancid. I bought the $4.99 Marsala at Albertsons. Krabari, and it's very good when I broiled the eggs with it. Is it like world class? No, but it is good. Constellation Brands, Krabari Marsala. It wasn't rancid. Okay. All right, so I think this is the limited, and I think that's the Canadian Crest. Which one wins? how can one win? I mean, I'll tell you who wins. The cheap one wins, okay? Canadian Limited is $7.42 at Walmart. $7.42. For that price, it's fine. If I paid $9.42, I might be angry. Okay? They've got the Clan McGregor bottles like that for $7 right now. They're trying to get rid of them. They're probably all gone now. Well, that's a great price because Clan McGregor is better than average cheap scotch. It's a better than average cheap scotch. Oh, it's cheap. The company admits that. That's why they created it. But it's better than you would expect. Limited is about what you would expect. It's cheap and it tastes like it's a cheap brand. You know, it's not bad. But this one is very similar and it's $5.99. So what would you rather pay? $5.99 or $7.42 for virtually, notice I say virtually the same product. Do they taste exactly the same? No, they do not. So this is the limited. Let's see. It is. Okay. Maybe that was just a 50-50 shot. Correct. Because I wasn't particularly, I wasn't able to particularly differentiate the two. I don't know if that's, I'm not stating that correctly. You know what I mean? I couldn't really tell them apart, but I thought that the limited maybe had like more like John Italy is talking about the almond extract flavor. But, I mean, it's a tie. And who wins a tie? The cheaper one by default. So Crescent Crown, yeah. Canadian Crest wins by default. By default. Bucky Dent says, damn, that's a good price. It is. That's why I like to go to Albertsons. It's a fascinating store. They have all kind of brands that no one else sells. Like bourbon, straight bourbon, nobody else sells it. All kind of weird stuff. Like it's like a little adventure land. They have wine you never heard of. They got beer that no one else sells. I mean, I don't know if Albertsons does too well in Louisiana, honestly. I don't even know if they're doing that well across the United States, but that's not my problem. They might go out of business tomorrow. They tried to open one in New Orleans. It lasted, what, a year? It closed down before Katrina hit. Like a month before Katrina hit, it closed down. It just, New Orleans did not embrace Albertsons, all right? Baton Rouge is they're all over Baton Rouge. There's one in Hammond. That's as far east as it comes around here. It's Hammond, Louisiana. But if they're making money, I don't know. And I don't care. It's not my problem. I'm a Rouse's fan, says Bucky. I like Rouse's. Don't love it. Like it. Do they have good deals there? Yes. I do go to Rouse's often, though. And I like that they have the singles that you can just buy, each single priced accordingly. You don't have to do, like Albertsons, you got to make your own six-pack and pay a standard price. $9.99, you know, or now it's jumped to $10.99. But it's always like the same old stuff. Like they never change it, you know. So I don't really buy it because I can't find 6 new beers. But Rouse's, you know, you can say, well, I'm not going to make a 6-pack. I only want 3. These 3. The Waldos. Okay, now they just put KBS right there. And they have KBS and Bud Light next to each other. Dixie. Okay, so you can pick, and then it's all priced differently. So that's a good way to do it, you see. You're not bound to a 6-pack. So I do like that. Mathern's does it that way too now, so that's very convenient. Very, very convenient. Okay, so that's that. Next up is later today, and that will be whatever I have scheduled. It's I think it's Royal Canadian. Royal Canadian. Now that one's going to be a little different, you see, because Royal Canadian tastes like it's not flavored. It tastes like Seagram's VO, just like a lot of grain, and then the rye, a good amount of barley, and the wood, but you don't really pick up these oddball flavors. So yeah, it's dull, you know, it's kind of dull, but it's not bad. But anyway, oh well, blah blah blah. Hope that's not rain because I was about to go walking. I really hope that's not rain. All right. Thanks for watching, folks. It's sort of like the fascinating world of Albertsons, right? This is sort of like the fascinating and eccentric world of Albertsons store brand liquor versus the cut rate prices at Walmart. Because, I mean, you know, Walmart, you say, oh, Walmart, you're just a shill for the big companies. Well, no, I'm not, but people will say that, but I don't care. It's whatever you want to say. Versus the cut rate prices of Walmart. I mean, Walmart has prices for liquor that are usually, I don't see people beating those. Usually, sometimes, yes, usually not. Thanks for watching this video production.